Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your waiting. The International Eelgrass and Blue Card Workshop Day 3 will be started from now on. I am Momoko Saeki, serving you as a moderator. Thank you. Yesterday, domestic and overseas practicing examples of research, conservation, restoration of the blue carbon ecosystems were reported to us. Today, we will introduce to you about the International Consortium of the Coast Guard Project Belmont Forum to learn about their methodologies for various stakeholders to practice for the sake of social transformation. And we'll hold a workshop with these members. Hope you will enjoy the program. Firstly, to look back over what discussed yesterday, as for the schedule today, Furukawa-san of Secretariat will give you the announcement as follows. Furukawa-san, please. Good morning, everyone. I'm Furukawa. So we have a day 3 of our International Eelgrass and Blue Carbon Workshop. Day 3. And we'd like to look back as to what discussed yesterday and today's schedule as well. Yesterday, in the hall, there are 150 people participating in real, in person. And for the Japanese language site, 800 people have visited us. And from overseas, at the overseas site, there are about 230 people have listened to us. Thank you very much for your listening and observing our program. And we had 4 speakers, wonderful keynote lectures. We have shared the valuable information related to blue carbon ecosystems. Let me summarize those. In Japan, the current status of the blue carbon ecosystems, there was a report made at that time, the estimation method for the carbon storage. This is a very complicated formula, but in a very careful manner, it was explained to us. And also the environmental DNA, which is a new environmental survey methodology. The methodology, the application, the scope of applications were explained to us. So in the monitoring and the surveys and so forth, these will be the application areas for us to make the best use of eDNA. In the Philippines, many community-based mangrove forest reforestation projects are ongoing, and it was introduced to us for many years. Local community people, in cooperation with the various stakeholders who are proceeding with this project, we have learned a lot about this. And also, there was a report made on the biological adaptation in the Red Sea, which is a pioneering experimentation station to cope with the change in a global warming, as to how they are coping with, or not coping with, the water temperature increase. They spend and they take time and be coping with the change in environment, starting from small species like seaweed and seagrass. And they have introduced us as to how they are biological adaptations. Then, following that, there are 3 sessions entitled as the forefront of practices. In session 1, they have reported to us on their various efforts by fishermen administration, companies, and citizens. In session 2, primary school children and high school children have reported to us as to the issues and solutions they have encountered and come up with their difficulties as well as their ideas. In session 3, as a science communication, we have emphasized it is important to look at the thing and observe the thing and make efforts for them to take interest. And although it is difficult, but we don't leave children behind. That's a message given. And I think there is a need. They have indicated there is need for open communication. And today, we will look into the goals by the Coast Guard, which is the Belmont Forum International Joint Research. What they are doing will be introduced to you for your attention, as well as their specific activities. Firstly, we have a keynote lecture in this format in front of you. There will be presentations made. And we have some late afternoon, late breakfast, lunch time, and afterwards we are to have a role-playing game, as if you are to have a simulated experience, sort of participating in the environment. So that we like to look into the inclusive society, how it is to be. By this game, you will learn this, and the way it is to be, and ideas and thoughts will be experienced through this role-play game. And also, before we have a lunch break, we have some time up to the lunchtime, so we will finish the transmission of this on an online basis. So Amamo 2023 declaration is something we like to propose for your thought. At that time, from the people on the floor, we would like to have a discussion to elaborate on a skeleton idea of this declaration for Amamo 2023. With this in mind, I hope you will have a fun and joy in the day program today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your waiting. The International Eelgrass and Blue Carbon Workshop 2023, the third day, begins with the keynote speeches. We have from Coast Guard the keynote speakers, and I ask Dr. Furukawa to moderate this keynote speech session. Thank you very much. We are very pleased to have two speakers, distinguished speakers, for the keynote speech. So as this is a Coast Guard the project, we will ask you to switch to English.
International collaborative research work, and we would like to have a audience widely spread out to the world. So we will have a distinguished presentation as a keynote in this morning from the principal investigator in the Japan team of the Coast Guard, and also the principal investigator for the all over the Coast Guard team from the United States. So firstly, I would like to call Professor Kazuo Nadaoka, who is a Professor Emeritus of the Tokyo Institute of Technology, and he will give a talk about the conservation strategies for the tropical and subtropical coastal ecosystems. So, Professor Nadaoka, please take the floor.
Good morning. Yeah, it is my great pleasure to be here. So giving you my presentation, this title, Conservation Strategies for Tropical and Subtropical Coastal Ecosystems. Actually, in my talk this morning, I'll talk not only about the Coast Guard project, but also some other recent related project, mostly for coral triangle areas. I will give you a brief explanation what coral triangle is. Yeah, this slide shows global distributions of the biodiversity in terms of the number of species for corals at the top, mangroves in the middle, and the seagrass in the bottom. Yeah, as you can see, especially the corals and the mangroves show their high values, mostly in areas like Indonesia, Philippines, and others. Yeah, roughly speaking, the overall shape there is coral triangle. Triangle. That's why it is called coral triangle recently. Yeah. Although that is the global center of its richness or biodiversity, yeah, but there is a kind of serious ironical situation, meaning that most of them are showing rapid declining trend because of the local stresses and global issues. Yeah? That is the overall current status. This slide shows a kind of the pictorial illustration of what kind of the stresses or disturbances you are facing around and inside of a coastal ecosystem, especially coral reef ecosystem. In the terrestrial side, in the left, you have, for example, sedimentation due to the deforestation and others, and also over nutrient discharge, causing sometimes the outbreak of the crown of stone starfishes. And in the right-hand side, there are oceanic stresses like sea level rise, water temperature rise, ocean acidification, and also increasing trend of typhoon. Yeah, in the middle, we have to concern about, of course, unsustainable tourism development, illegal overfishing. Yeah, all of them are quite serious concern now. This slide shows a kind of two categories in terms of the chronic stresses and also episodic disturbances. That is, in other words, pulse type disturbances. Yeah? In the chronic stresses, it includes, for example, sea level rise, water temperature rise, ocean acidification, anthropogenic impacts like water quality degradation due to sedimentation, nutrient discharge, and others. On the other hand, pulse type, episodic disturbances, it includes super typhoons and heat waves causing massive coral bleaching, and sometimes you have outbreak of random stone starfishes. That starfish eat corals. Among all these, you may have another two categories in terms of the controllability. Generally speaking, most of the local stresses are more or less controllable because of its size. Yeah? But on the other hand, climate change issue is, of course, very hard to control, to mitigate. That is another big differences to consider. Yeah, in that regard, proper control of local stresses is the primary agenda to rehabilitate the damaged reef ecosystem. But how to combat climate changes? Yeah. In that regard, enhancing resilience, that is capacity of natural recovery from the damaged status, that is one of the most important keys. I will explain that in more detail later. As one of the typical cases of the pulse type episodic disturbances, I'd like to talk about this case, super typhoon. The day before yesterday, Mrs. Amy Gonzalez already referred to this. Yeah? Haiyan, super typhoon Haiyan, that hit middle part of the Philippines early November of 2013. That causes devastating situation in terms of the casualties and missing. In total, more than 8,000. Yeah? Huge loss. But the loss was not limited to the human or society, but also ecosystem as well. Although Amy-san mentioned that in some cases, mangrove forests acted as a kind of the natural barrier to protect the coastal community behind. But you can find some other cases where the mangrove forest itself was heavily damaged. This is one of the examples which I took the 5 years later. Is that correct? Yes, 5 years later, at one location along the eastern Samar Island. Yeah. Total, almost all the forest covers were gone due to the super typhoon. But I'd like to mention one more important point. Not only the above ground part, like a tree part of the mangroves, but also below ground parts were lost due to the sudden erosion of the sediment layer, right? As you know, the majority of the carbon exists not in the above ground, but below ground, especially the sediments. Therefore, such a sudden erosion means huge loss of carbon stock. Yeah? That is actually very, very big concern. But we have another bad news. Intensity of the super typhoon is projected to be intensified. Yeah, this is one of the examples showing such an increasing trend toward the future. And this prediction, at the end of this century, the intensity, for example, the wind speed of the super typhoon will be intensified up to 40% more than present. Considering, for example, wind force is roughly speaking proportional to the square of the wind speed. Therefore, wind force itself will increase about 30%. Yeah, that is a very big increase to our future. Considering such an increasing trend of the super typhoon, what will happen in your ecosystem? Yeah. This slide shows a conceptual diagram indicating such a situation. In the upper portion of the figure shows the time history in the future, having the some of the disturbance. In this case, for example, super typhoon or massive coral bleaching due to the heat waves at certain interval, which may call return period. Yeah, you will have such a successive hit by such a pulse type disturbance, and then suddenly you have decreased, yeah, degradation of the status of the ecosystem. In case of the corals, that may be accounted as the live coral covers. Yeah. So the coastal ecosystem status will show such a sharp drop in the occasion of the pulse type disturbance. And then you can expect the gradual recover, natural recover, not man-made. Such a capacity of the natural recovery is called resilience. Yeah? That's why the keeping good capability as the resilience is one of the keys to have a kind of the natural adaptation to this kind of successive pulse type disturbance. But in reality, yeah, actual data shows the degradation of the resilience itself, meaning that the recovery rate has shown the more slow recovery, so to say. Yeah. Therefore, if you will repeat this kind of cycle, yeah, meaning that pulse and subsequent recovery, then overall you have such the long-term declining trend That is current status overall. Yeah? Therefore, the keys to combat such a situation is to recover or even enhance the resilience itself. Yeah? In that regard, from now on, I'd like to talk about the case of Sequestering Lagoon, located just in between Ishigaki Island in the east and Iriomote Island in the west. As you know, Ishigaki Island is located one of the national park, Iriomote Ishigaki National Park, and that area is quite famous because it is the largest coral reef area in Japan. But unfortunately, due to such a threats, soil runoff in the left and coral bleaching in the top right, and coach outbreak, the bottom right, three major threats there. Yeah. Due to all of them, the reef are not in good status. Even worse recently. For example, this is the three successive situations just before the coral bleaching event in the top left, and during the bleaching event, the bottom and top right. That is the situation after the bleaching. Yeah. The bleaching is caused by the removal of symbiotic algae there. Yeah. Therefore, that situation will last for, say, several weeks. The corals will finally die. Right? That is the situation of the top right. Yeah. This kind of the massive bleaching was happened in the year of 2016. Even before that, we have similar massive coral bleaching there in the year of 1998, and then 2007 and 2016. Even last year, we have the massive bleaching, but at the time, the final death rate was not so big. But previous three coral bleaching caused the death of corals. Yeah. In this series of the events of the massive coral bleaching, yeah, quite interestingly, yeah, or as a bad news, I have to say so. After the first massive bleaching, 1998, we could observe good recovery, good resilience. But after 2007 and 2016, the recovery was very, very limited. Yeah? So, what will happen in the future? Massive coral bleaching events have occurred, yeah, quite interesting, every 9 years so far. We don't know the situation will be repeated or not, but surely such a massive bleaching will come again and again, most probably much more intensively or extensively, right? That is quite probable future story. Okay. Then, our argument should be how to combat against such a increasing threats. We should recover or even enhance the resilience as the primary challenge, as I said before. How to do that? What's our target? for doing that. The most probable causes of the loss of the regions are chronic man-made local stresses listed here. Soil runoff, excessive nutrient discharge, which may cause outbreak, and sustainable tourism and coastal development, and others. All these are local stresses. Therefore, you can do something. Let's look at the overall status of the sources of the soil runoff and others. Yeah? As I said, successful lagoons are located between Ishigaki and Iromate Island. Among these two islands, Ishigaki Islands are more or less developed due to the farming, cow husbandry, and urban activities. Due to our previous numerical estimation analysis, we find that there is a kind of connectivity, local connectivity, connecting the Ishigaki Island and Sekiri Lagoon due to the presence of the strong oceanic current features. For example, this panel shows a kind of snapshot of the oceanic current with a lot of arrows, black arrows, and associated sea surface temperature. Looking at arrows, you can find strong current directing from the eastern side of the Ishigaki Island toward southern portion of Sekiri Lagoon. Yeah? Due to that, there is some connectivity. One of them is biological connectivity, meaning that coral larvae may be transported from eastern side of the island toward Sekiri Lagoon. Therefore, if you keep good condition for live coral communities in this eastern part, then it may supply a lot of larvae toward Sekiri Lagoon. That is one of the connectivity. But there is the other type of connectivity. That is stress connectivity. Meaning that silt eroded from the farmland and others in the Ishigaki Island may be transported to the coastal areas through the rivers and further transported toward Ishigaki Island. With this strong current, that is the quite bad situation. Because currently, a lot of silt is still discharging toward surrounding coastal areas. Therefore, people put a lot of attempts to control the erosion of the soil, like mulching, settling pond, green belt. Yeah. But unfortunately, still a lot of erosion is happening. Yeah. And another one is this kind of situation. Yeah. Cattle husbandry, another main sources causing nutrients, especially the phosphate. And that is another environmental stresses to the coral reef ecosystems. And if we have the elevation of the level of the nutrients for the coastal areas, it may cause the increase of the primary production, meaning that you will increase of the growth of the phytoplankton. Yeah? Because larvae have the ability to feed the phytoplankton. That's why if we have the increase of the phytoplankton in the coastal areas, it may cause, trigger, or maintain the situation of the crown of some starfishes. And for assessing the efficiency of the proper control of the nutrient levels, we developed this kind of integrated model system for outbreak, combining the terrestrial models to properly assess how much nutrients will happen in the terrestrial system, and then how much will be transported to coastal areas, the island, and then what will happen in the coast community? Yeah, dynamic change of the climate zones. And what we conducted was the kind of scenario analysis. In these figures, for example, in the right part, if you reduce the nutrient levels to 75% in comparison with the present situation, you have that kind of the coral covers. But if you will decrease 1/4, 75% reduction, you can keep good condition for coral covers due to the proper control of outbreak of the ground zone starfishes. This slide shows a kind of note. As I repeatedly mentioned, the importance of the increase, enhancement of resilience by proper control of the local sources. Yeah? That is actually primary agenda to enhance the resilience. But that is not all. Meaning that if you will be successful to properly control all these water quality related environmental status, still it is highly probable that the at certain areas, coral recovery was still limited due to, for example, limited supply of the coral larvae from surrounding areas and degradation of the seabottom conditions, degradation of the substrate conditions. Yeah? That is quite probable, I think. Therefore, for enhancing the resilience in the entire system, you have to introduce a kind of local man-made support by introducing the techniques for improving the substrate conditions, yeah, for promoting the sexual or asexual reproduction for corals. That's one important message. This slide shows again, overall situation of the multiple sources and their controllability. Yeah. So far, I talked about mainly about the terrestrial side, local scale impacts. But the question is how to tackle climate change. Who will do it? That is a big question. In this perspective, I can say blue carbon is one of the keywords for contributing both to local ecosystem conservation and climate change mitigation. That's a global issue. Yeah? You can contribute both local and global, right? From now on, I'd like to talk about our recent project. Its acronym is Blue Cares Project. The full title is Comprehensive Assessment and Conservation of Blue Carbon Ecosystems and Their Services in the Coral Triangle, right? This is trilateral international project between Japan, Philippines, and Indonesia. 6 years project, just finished it at the end of this, March this year. The aim is establishing what we call blue carbon strategies as an effective scheme for enhancing local efforts to conserve blue carbon ecosystems and improve their resilience, and thereby for contributing to mitigation of global warming. Again, local and global, right? Due to the time limitation, I'd like to introduce some key outputs from the project. This slide shows the overall structures, yeah? Elements constituting the multi-scale integrated model system to cover entire part of a coral triangle and its all surrounding areas, yeah? Based on the nested 3D ocean circulation model in the right middle. And also, we developed the various local scale models like coral reef models, mangrove dynamics models, seagrass dynamics models as well. And another important point is terrestrial model development. That is a green carbon system modeling. Yeah? All these are linked. Yeah? I'd like to introduce only few examples from this model system. That is a mangrove dynamics model. Yeah? This panel shows in the left, that is the mangrove forest dynamics models for properly simulating, reproducing the dynamic growth processes of the mangrove trees, considering the possible combination with environmental conditions. Yeah? And right one is the new model system about sediment dynamics model for mangrove forests. Yeah? Based on the modeling of the very complicated root system. You may know very complicated features of the root system, especially the rhizophora. Yeah? Yeah, illustrated over there. And the various actual flow measurement. Yeah? Yeah, I'd like to show a few examples based on this. This slide shows the results of the long-range future prediction of the mangrove growth, having the two different mangrove species, Rhizophora and Bruguera. These two species have different tolerance level against salinity. Having this, we can assess what will happen in the future situation of the sea level rise, cause the shift of the salinity structure in the space. And this is another example using the new sediment dynamics model for mangrove forest areas. This is a result that I mean the right panel. That shows a future prediction about soil erosion in the mangrove areas, supposing increasing trend of the super typhoon intensity. Yeah? Two different cases, with and without mangrove forest covers. In both cases, you can find non-linearly sudden increase of the erosion. Yeah? But another important features found here is big difference between these two cases. If you, for example, deforest mangrove forest, then the soil erosion, or in other words, carbon stock loss, will be intensified. Huge difference. Yeah, therefore, we have to keep mangrove forest cover as much as possible. On the other hand, we developed we introduced remote sensing techniques using drone, airborne, and satellite, multi-scale. As one of the important outputs of this, especially for nationwide mapping, we first developed the new mangrove extent detection indices. That is called Mangrove Vegetation Index, MVI. That is the semi-automated mangrove extent mapping methodologies. Very, very quick, cost effective. Yeah? And then we detected the mangrove zonation, typical species areas mapping, and also biomass mapping, their change detection, and also drivers detection. As one of the recent good news for us, the FAO in the United Nations is now using this one. This is very good news. This is good news. But there is a significant drawback in the applicability of such a remote sensing technology. Simply speaking, remote sensing can be applied to detect only the above ground part But as I said, the majority of the carbon exists in the below ground part. Yeah, that is the serious limitation of the applicability of remote sensing. And another one is, for nationwide mapping, you also need a nationwide validation at various locations in the country. Yeah, that is another important point to consider. Therefore, obviously, we need ground-based nationwide monitoring network. Then we did in the Blue Case project, both in the Philippines and Indonesia. Yeah, that is named Coordinate Network System, CNS. That is, of course, a platform for sustainable periodical nationwide monitoring of the blue carbon ecosystems, including below ground part. And this nationwide monitoring output is very critical for updating blue carbon strategy or policies as adaptive management. This is the spatial structures in case of the Philippines. They named Philippine side counterpart group named also BCNet, Blue Carbon Net. Yeah, it consists of the 3 clusters. And each cluster we have sub-core. And the total number of the members are more than 64. And the similar 3 clusters structures were introduced for CNS Indonesia. Yeah. Of course, there are already existing global or regional scale monitoring network, but most of them are monitoring for specific target, monitoring for seagrass, monitoring for mangroves, monitoring for corals. Yeah, very much specific, in my opinion. But we have to monitor the coastal ecosystem as a whole. Therefore, personally, I don't like the name of a BCNet. If you say BCNet, people may regard that is the monitoring only for BC ecosystem, typically mangroves and seagrasses. But we have to monitor all others, not only the coastal ecosystem, but also surrounding systems like land use, land cover changes, because they are the drivers causing the changes of the coastal ecosystems, even socio-economic factors. And this slide shows some key points for CNS. As I said, it should be comprehensive one. And we are introducing what we call green and blue carbon ecosystem linkage framework, in short, GB-Link. And next one is, we will introduce participatory monitoring as a citizen science approach, and linking with also integrated model system. Modeling and monitoring should be linked closely. And as I said, it may serve as a nationwide ground truthing with CNS for nationwide remote sensing. And number 3 is very important point. Although the CNS is originally developed as a kind of the nationwide monitoring system, but it may serve as a nationwide platform linking institutions, agencies, and student science scientists across the country, and thereby connecting various local action and national policy planning. And in this network system, we have already provided so many time of the training opportunities, yeah, basically for monitoring. From now on, I would like to briefly mention about, is it okay? 2 or 3 more minutes? Yeah. This slide shows the, for giving you what the GB link is. Yeah. Yesterday, actually, Dr. Yasmin Prepabera already talked about this, yeah, in case of the Aklan, the Panay Island in the Philippines. This picture shows the overall situation of the Aklan River, Batam Bay in the middle bottom. And in the river mouth areas, there is the very famous mangrove planting areas, Bakawang Eco Park. Yeah. People started planting in the year 1990. Then it shows such a successive growth in the plan view extent of the planting area. So nowadays, it could cover entire shore parts in the river mouth. Yeah, that's why you can say this is very, very successful case of mangrove planting. Yeah? But if you look at surrounding areas, your perception would vary, more or less. For example, this slide shows in the left, the blue line shows the location of the shoreline at 1985, and red line shows the shoreline locations in the year 2020. Yeah? You can find a big recession, erosion of beach. And even the a bit distant areas, the right part, yeah, still about 50 or 60 meters recession found. Yeah, most probable cause is the growth of the Bakawang Eco Park because, yeah, mangroves has a big function of the sediment trapping, causing the decrease of the sediment supply toward the downstream side of the coast. Therefore, we have to consider much wider linkage of the system. Not only this kind of the connectivity, but also many other connectivities were there. The story started from the recent deforestation in the upland, which may cause the increase of the sediments, both in the coast and the fine sediments. And it may cause the recent flood-prone areas in the downstream of the rivers, and the increase of the coastal turbidity causing the degradation of sea grasses. Yeah, and then local issues, degradation of the water quality in the Batam Bay due to the massive deforestation of the mangrove forest inside, and development of the surrounding water catchment. And yeah, this is a local connectivity. Considering all these, we need obviously a kind of the more wider interconnected framework, which may cause GB link. Yeah? Although our main target is a blue carbon ecosystem, not only for research, but also policy or something. But for both, we have to consider such a linkages with green part as well. And therefore, the recently, we could establish the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding for establishing Akron Rivers, Bays, Coast Integrated Management Council, ABC Council, based on GB Link framework. And then further, we are now going to establishment of provincial audiences. And going back to the CNS, we have already designed the overall structures of the CNS in Malaysia. And then in this project, MC project, we have designed to expand more to cover the Southeast Asia. Yeah. And this is the last slide. Based on the implementation or development of the CNS for South and East Asia regions, we are further trying to establish a kind of the, what we call meta network. Meta network means network of networks. Network of networks. Networks of existing networks, I can say. For example, Futures Coast, Ocean Con, Wetland International, Coral Triangle Initiative. Yeah? All these have a kind of common vision, common purpose. But for realizing more well-functioning, effective mechanism, we have to link all these together. And another important point here is to creating well-functioning, strong coordination mechanism. Otherwise, you cannot properly manage this. For that purpose, we are now trying to establish a joint house together with SIMC and PAMC. SIMC for science side, PAMC for policy and management side. Okay? Okay, that's all from my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Professor Nadaoka to pointing out that our facing threat, including the episodic and the chronicle threat, and he is giving the very big view for the strategies. So now I would like to call on the Professor William Denison. Sorry. Let me prepare your presentation first. Okay, the Professor Denison is coming from the University of Maryland Center of Environmental Science, and he is a principal investigator of the international consortium of the Coast Guard project. So, Bill, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Keita, not just for the introduction, but for this wonderful conference and beautiful boat ride last night. So what I want to talk about today is our Coast Guard project. But to get there, I'm going to tell you a story first. Before I do Coast Guard, and my Coast Guard colleagues probably haven't heard this story, I'm going to talk about going back 25 years. And we started doing report cards when I was in southeast Queensland in Australia in this location called Moreton Bay. And what you see here is a map of Australia and Moreton Bay on the east coast, and a conceptual diagram, which is the first thing we did, is to try to cast what it is in that bay that's going on. And we saw that there are these riverine inputs, estuary with a lot of turbidity, and the turbidity protected the light from reaching the chlorophyll, but once the sediments dropped out, you got the green water. And then over on the eastern side of the bay, we had a very healthy seagrass, turtle, and dugong area. So we were running a river symposium, and they asked me to provide a rating, a report card. So I sat around with about 6 graduate students, and we looked around, and we said, well, the worst place is over on the western shore. That's Bramble Bay. Let's give that an F. The best place is over there with the dugongs and turtles. Let's give that an A. And then let's figure everything else in between. So we just made it up, literally made it up. And we presented it, thought, that no big deal. Well, it turns out people cared about that. They cared about the grades. Front page news, it was a little bit of a worry because we didn't put much science into it. We just made it up. So we said, well, maybe we'd better actually create a monitoring program and do some rigorous science. So that's what we set out to do. We still use the simple letter grades. One of the things we learned is it's easy to identify the best and the worst. No matter what indicators you use, no matter how you evaluate it, those are pretty easy endpoints. What was difficult is rating in between. But because it was on the news, it became something that the local elected officials started to pay attention to. So let's hear from the mayor of one of the councils.
It's invigorating to sit down and see a report card and see an improvement. And you think it hasn't been a waste of time. It's there, you can see it. And it's a cleansing feeling to me. I think the report card was the most brilliant, if not the standout of all of the achievements. We can talk about our little battles and wars along the way, the aquatic piggery, the sewage treatment plant, and educating kids and getting everybody on board and developing a social conscience of what we're doing. We can do all of that, But unless we've got a yardstick, unless we've got some way of, hey, an education isn't much good unless you get a mark. How good a scientist is Bill? Well, I don't know, have a look at his mark. He didn't get any marks. How can we do something if we didn't have that comparison to be able to retrospectively look back at where we were and are we making a difference? The report card, I believe, has been the single biggest contributor to developing that social conscience I was talking about.
So then this guy became the chair of the local councils, and that spread to the other mayors. And then they decided not just Moreton Bay, they wanted to do the catchment, the watershed. And so we had report cards in the watershed. We went up and down the coast to the beach areas. And then that kind of spread out throughout Australia. We did a report card for the Great Barrier Reef, Darwin Harbor, et cetera. Now, with that that experience, I came to Chesapeake Bay in 2002, and I said, well, let's do a report card. The difference in Chesapeake Bay was that there was already a monitoring program that started in the mid-1980s, a very robust monitoring program. Plenty of data, but not much synthesis of that data. In fact, when I looked at the indicators, they had 101 different indicators. Some of them were indicators about how much seagrass area. Some were the response, how much seagrass planting they did. There was no hierarchy, no combined indices. And so you could tell whatever story you wanted, pick out the indicators you wanted to tell a story. If it was about oysters, well, things weren't very good. If it was about crabs, things were pretty good. So we ended up with the NGOs having these doom and gloom stories. Save the bay, give us money. We had the government saying, happy talk. Well, look at all the things we're doing. We're getting all this done. No way to really understand, is the bay getting better or worse? So we took out of the 101 indicators, 7 selected indicators, water quality and biotic indicators. And we used the existing monitoring program that you can see on the map here. So once again, generated a lot of media attention. This report card was a novel thing. We started doing it on a regular basis. When the Maryland governor, Martin O'Malley, came into office, he embraced this. He was a guy that was a mayor of Baltimore, and he had a thing for crime. He called it CompStat, and then he had a Bay Stat for the Bay. And this is him talking about his Bay Stat at a TED event.
Well, unlike crime, where the goal was put the dots on the map, reduce crime, what we have to reduce in the Chesapeake Bay are the things caused by our own actions. The inflow of nitrogen, phosphorus, sedimentary pollution. And so what did we do? We modeled the Chesapeake Bay.
So you can see here, the report card is part of this story.
Well, unlike crime.
And the nutrient upgrades that this governor and previous and subsequent governors put into place has improved the water quality. The nutrients are decreasing in Chesapeake Bay. One example of that is up at the head of the bay, there's a seagrass bed that you can see from space, from Google Earth. This seagrass bed's very lush, so much so, here we are, Carlos, that's the Lingbia that's in the middle of the bed, because the bed is absorbing so much of the nutrients that it's actually got a cyanobacteria associated with it. But fantastic fisheries associated with it. All the crab boats and fisheries are surrounding this bed. And then we got discovered, we felt like we were the garage band that got discovered by the record label. So in comes WWF, World Wildlife Fund, and they wanted to expand this report card globally, and we call this partnership Healthy Rivers for All. One of the first things we did, and this is with Vanessa, worked on this, is did surveys of different report cards. We'd been doing these in a bunch of different locations around the world, but when we asked people that were developing these report cards, these practitioners, the NGOs or agencies, 80% said the report cards were very good at increasing public awareness, but only 50% said that they actually had a positive impact on the stakeholder behavior. Now, that's still 50% is making a difference. I think over time it can actually increase because a lot of these hadn't had multiple years. I think you need multiple years of report cards to get the impact. 60% said it had a positive impact on the basin. 86% said it increased demand for additional information, and virtually all of them said that they would recommend report cards to their peers. So that's why these report cards have been kind of viral. With WWF, we've produced a couple of handbooks. We've gone to South America, Orinoco River. We've gone to the Zambezi River in Africa, the Tool River in Mongolia, et cetera. So we've gone a lot of different locations working with WWF. But then along comes Belmont Forum, and that's what's given us the funding for this Coast Guard project. Belmont Forum was created in a place called Belmont, Maryland, where the National Science Foundation from America, the Japanese Science and Technology Foundation from Japan, and all the other developed countries gathered together and said, we're not making the progress we need to make addressing these global issues. So let's do something that's transnational and transdisciplinary. And you need to integrate stakeholders in everything you do, establish communication pathways, and co-create new knowledge. So this is our conceptualization of what that transdisciplinary path looks like. So down in the lower left, your typical investigator-driven research where as a scientist, you tell people what's important. Blue carbon's important. We're talking to them. We're the experts. You have to just listen to us, and we assume that that's going to change their behavior. It really doesn't work. That's that empty vessel model of just have to fill people up with knowledge and they're going to change behavior. So what we need to do is collaborate much more closely with them, and ultimately, up in the top, transdisciplinary research is where you share your knowledge, our scientific knowledge with their values and knowledge systems, and co-create, where the stakeholders and the scientists are working collaboratively in designing the experiments and creating new knowledge together. So here's our little short video of our Belmont.
We have assembled a unique partnership between coastal, marine, social scientists, report card practitioners, systems dynamic modelers, and stakeholders. This partnership is developing an innovative stakeholder-driven tool called Coast Guard. COAST stands for Coastal Ocean Assessment for Sustainability and Transformation, and CARD refers to socio-environmental report cards. Our consortium is funded through the Belmont Forum, a consortium of research funders and international science councils that supports international transdisciplinary research that provides knowledge for understanding, mitigating, and adapting to global environmental change. Massive changes in climate, population, pollution, and consumption patterns place coastal and ocean systems at increasing risk. Standard management approaches are not adequate for dealing with these massive changes. So we are developing a new set of robust and transformative tools to produce well-balanced policies that will lead to improved environmental resources on a global scale. Coast Guards will merge three tools. One, environmental status assessment through a report card process. Two, societal guidance provided through social network analysis. And three, prioritized actions identified with systems dynamics models. A spiral learning process represents our framework where stakeholders learn from each region through iterative processes at each of our international sites. Our team consists of researchers and stakeholders from the United States of America, Philippines, Norway, India, and Japan. The research teams will engage with stakeholders in iconic locations around the world to develop Coast Guards. These locations are the Chesapeake Bay in the United States, Manila Bay in the Philippines, Tokyo Bay, Sekuse Lagoon near Isugaki Island in Japan, and the Goa coasts of India. Across these different sites, shared values include the importance of fishing, shipping, port development, habitat integrity, tourism and recreation, and cultural and historic values. The major threats that are shared across the board are pollution, climate change, and population pressures.
Each location has unique challenges and desired outcomes, but some common themes transcend the geographical and cultural differences. One of the common themes for the vision at each study site is that of social equity. This vision was expressed in various ways, such as environmental justice, fair and meaningful participation in decision-making, equitable resource management, and collaborative engagement. It represents a common human desire for a fair and equitable system of environmental management. Another common theme is the broad engagement of stakeholders needed for effective social environmental management. In Japan, this is expressed as sataumi, defined as management of a natural system with human interaction to enhance productivity and diversity. In Chesapeake Bay, this is expressed as diverse local knowledge input into decision-making and the incorporation of citizen science programs. Each country team is now embarking on a series of stakeholder engagement activities to develop a theory of change to co-create a shared vision for each study site. The value of an international team spanning developed and developing countries with a diverse suite of stakeholders is in our ability to create transformative solutions that will have global applicability. The transdisciplinary approach of incorporating the social sciences with the natural sciences, involving practitioners, and engaging with key stakeholders in the study sites is an absolute necessity for the co-production of a Coast Card. We believe that this new and powerful collaboration to produce Coast Cards will promote behavior change and collective action to accelerate the sustainable and equitable use of oceans and coastal systems in an era of rapid global change.
So it's a new generation of report cards. In this case, we're not just talking about looking in the rearview mirror, how did we go, where did we come from, but looking through the windscreen and looking where we're going, having that vision that we're all reaching together and using the models and the network analysis to find out who and how we should go about doing that, to take those grades from C to B, from B to A. We were so excited when we got funded in March 2020. We're going to go all these places and we're going to see these things in person and work with these people in person, but COVID didn't help us out. And then it turns out each of our partners was having different COVID outbreaks at different times. So every time we started planning, oh, it looks like we can go. Let's go to Manila. Nope, outbreak. So we ended up in a very virtual sense. But in fact, that created a new set of tools and techniques and approaches. So we had 5 teams. We had a leadership team, an engagement team, evaluation team, data management team, and dissemination team, and we would meet frequently. It actually was one of the highlights of my COVID lockdown experiences, sharing with people from India, Japan, and Philippines, Norway, what was going on in their respective countries. One of the things we spent some time doing is creating massive open online courses so that we could disseminate more widely. This is a quick intro to one of those courses.
Science can be a powerful tool driving sound environmental policy and offering sustainable solutions to any organization's resource challenges. Scientists can have a critical role in advising decision makers and resource managers. But to be effective, scientists need to know how to productively engage with a diverse set of stakeholders. Getting buy-in and shared ownership of the challenge is the key to solving complex problems. A team of scientists from the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, UMCES, has been honing their skills in this arena for over 90 years, using our unique methods to help manage the world's best studied estuary, the Chesapeake Bay. In the 4 courses that comprise this professional certificate, you will explore Chesapeake Bay and other renowned ecosystems that serve as global models for effective management, where we bring together world-class research, unique partnerships, and highly engaged citizens to make meaningful change. Working alongside a highly experienced team of UMCES scientists and other practitioners, you will learn the skills that you need to transform effectively communicated science into decisive action. Join us and learn how to communicate science in an inclusive fashion that will inform sound environmental policy by engaging and motivating political leaders, resource managers, business interests, and citizens.
So we got these online in, 2020 started, and been successfully adding courses. We've got 10,000 plus students from virtually everywhere in the world have registered for these courses, and we featured Coast Guard in the course on case studies. So we were able to get our colleagues to contribute to this. So just a couple things about our approach. We've got very divergent comparisons. We're taking a very large, shallow bay like Chesapeake Bay and comparing to a much smaller bay like Tokyo Bay, which is a lot deeper. We're looking at populations of megacities versus very sparse populations. We're looking at temperate to tropical systems. So we have a broad range. Yet when you even cross that incredible spectrum of size and complexity, we see some common things coming out. Look at the stakeholder mapping that we did for each of the study sites. When we put those all together, we see a very common pattern. The common pattern is industry is generally very influential, but not very interested in report cards. Academia is pretty interested, but not very influential. The government agencies span the spectrum. Some agencies very important, some not. The public and NGOs in between academia and government. So we could start to see these big patterns. Now I want to talk about what we've zoomed in using our Coast Guard approach and our efforts in Chesapeake Bay. First of all, we expanded to the watershed, and we produced these very short 6-8-page brochures, but they're supported by a lot of data and we have a website to back it up. So the credibility, the rigor associated with the report card is on the website. The stuff that we use for the politicians and the public are on the brochures. So our most recent report card release, which was in the Potomac River, along the bank of the Potomac River, we always get senators and governors to come to these, so that helps with the press impact factor. We had 500 million media views this year, the highest ever. But one of the things the report card allows you to do is step back, see the forest for the trees. So looking at our report card scores on the Chesapeake Bay, what you see here is only one region, that region on the eastern shore, the right side of the bay here, is called the eastern shore, and that's the place where it's degrading. And yet, everywhere else, it's either improving or holding its own. Interestingly, we have about 18 million people in the watershed. 17 million people live on the western shore. Only 1.1 million live on the eastern shore. So it's not really a human population problem that we're dealing with. We looked at the stream data, and sure enough, the streams that are feeding into the estuary on the eastern shore are degraded, uniquely in the watershed, degraded. Then when we looked at a bunch of social indicators we've been developing, that too shows problems on the eastern shore. We worked for 2 years with economists to come up with some good economic metrics. We included housing affordability, income inequality, the jobs growth, and median income. And what you see here is problems, again, in a bunch of different parts of the watershed, but in particular on the eastern shore. So to answer the question, why are these eastern shore tributary scores declining when you only have a fraction of the total human population? You have a very rural landscape. Well, it turns out we grow chickens, 600 million chickens a year on the eastern shore, and we end up with chicken waste. So it's the watershed conditions that are degraded, and it really drives home the point. If you don't have a healthy community, if your community structure is such that you have very wealthy chicken industry, but very poorly paid workers that can't afford their housing and have lack of access to green space, et cetera, and you degrade the ecosystem. So it takes a whole new view of how we attack this. It's not just environmental versus economy, it's a social system failure. And that's where the conversations are starting. The other thing we've done is incorporated an environmental justice index. Vanessa's gonna talk a little bit more about this, but it's also a chance to look at the privileged versus the underrepresented people in our watershed, both rural and urban. And when we zoom into this is something we developed with the Centers for Disease Control. We can start to see where we should be apportioning our efforts. We saw a little video of that. What that video that you saw was in producing these conceptual diagrams. This is just like back in Moreton Bay. You have to start with how the system works. And so you have on the top the values and the bottom the threats. This is something Sydney highlighted yesterday in the science communication talk. And of course, Sydney's responsible for these beautiful diagrams that we did for all 5 study sites. So I want to talk just briefly about our stakeholders. We've got the book that's out there, the tool guide for stakeholder engagement. In that book, you'll see a page that talks about how we define our stakeholders between 2 major groupings, the rights holders and the duty bearers. And I'll talk about the facilitators in a second. But the rights holders go back to, this came out of the United Nations and UNESCO's basic point of view that we have basic human rights. Access to clean water and clean air is one of those basic human rights. And so that's across the board. All humans have that. The duty bearers are the state actors, the agencies, the businesses, the people in power that have the ability to control the access of the rights holders to clean water and clean air. So what we also need, and this is where I think we fit in the Coast Guard project, and I think we as scientists that want to make a difference fit in as facilitators. So when we go back to that sketch of evolution towards transdisciplinary research that we talked about earlier with this increasing stakeholder in interaction and increasing complexity in problems, what you see here is that what we need to do as facilitators between the rights holders and the duty bearers, we need to be the ones that help bridge that gap. So in terms of science communication and outreach, things like our conceptual diagrams and our report cards. In things like the user-inspired research where we collaborate, we need listening sessions, and Vanessa's going to talk more about that later this morning. And then ultimately, in terms of transdisciplinary research, we need to be working directly with the leadership. And because report cards get our attention of our leadership, this is us putting some oyster spat into an oyster hatchery with our charismatic governor who's going to become president of the United States, the guy in the middle there, Westmore, mark my words. Very, very powerful. So we're really interested in our role as facilitators, because we're not going to change the world if we just stay in the science realm. We've got to bring the duty bearers and the rights holders together. We tend to have a lot of fun in our Coast Guard project. One of the fun things we do are we have little songs we do every year. Give you a little taste of that.
Here come old Belmont, it come grooving up slowly. It got juju data, it won holy forum.
So that's, I'll give you the website, you can watch the whole song and sing along later, but here's.
Where it began, I can't begin to know it, but then I know it's growing strong. It's the Coast Guard, and it became a winner. Who'd have believed it came along?
Like I said, just a taste, so you can go back, and if you would like, you can follow up on this. So kind of stepping back at the big picture here, I think the value of transnational collaboration summarized by a quote by Louis Pasteur, one of the great science practitioners, a scientist who did basic research and did applied research both in an excellent way. Science does not lay claim to any country because knowledge belongs to humanity, and it is the torch which illuminates the world. That's our aspiration in the Coast Guard. So please come by and check it out, play the songs, check out the tools and the courses we have and the materials that we have available on our website. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill, for the great presentation. A lot of music, the videos, and the photographs. And we hear that another way of how we can integrate our knowledge and integrate the vision, what we need. So this is very wonderful, and I'm very proud of can be the one of the part of this project. Sincerely. So I see this is a time for the break, but in this prestigious timing, so I'd like to take, if we have the one question, quick question for the today morning presenter. So 会場からもしご質問があれば1件だけお受けして休憩時間にしようかなと思います。何かご質問ありますか？ご意見をいただいて。
Any questions or comments?
Question about the terminology, because I am not English speaker. Sometimes we are talking about the integrated approach, but you are using the synthetic approach, the synthesis approach. Are there any difference for using these two words in the English-speaking people? No. Please use that. From back.
I think one of the things that sometimes I've heard from people outside science, they think of synthesis like chemical synthesis. That sometimes they don't understand that word. Integration, I think, is probably a word that's more commonly understood, both of which are representing bringing two or more things together. And I think that's really what we're trying to do with our Coast Guard, is bringing people together. And it's really about the people. We're not going to change the world unless we change the people that manage the world. So it's about bringing the right people together that we need. And I think integration is what we're looking for.
Thank you very much. ビルさんに、
Well, I asked Bill the difference between synthesis and integration. And basically, they mean the same, but synthesis can imply producing something new, like chemical necessity. But with the integration, you can perhaps bringing people together can produce something new. So that's why the Coast Guard emphasize the integration, bringing the people together along. So in the afternoon today, we will practice a game as an experience of integration. So I hope that what we have learned from keynote speeches will be kept in mind while enjoying the remaining the session.
As a keynote, so would you please join me to making a big hand for the two distinguished investigators.
Now, session 4 will be started. For session 4, the forefront of practice 4. From Coast Guard project members, they are going to introduce to us as to the various local projects. The moderator for this session is Professor Midori Kawabe of Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology. Professor Kawabe, please. Thank you.
About the session 4 for front from practice. This is about the participation of diverse stakeholders for social change, and practice in each country is introduced. I'm Kawabe from Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology, who acts as moderator in this session. Before starting this session, I'd like to mention about the Coast Guard a bit about in Japanese.
In Japanese, I would like to introduce you to the Coast Guard project, research project. May I? For Coast Guard, COAST stands for Coastal Ocean Assessment for Sustainability and Transformation. Coast Guard for short, COAST for short. It's not a coast, like a coast, ocean side. If you take a look at the right side, it's in Japanese. So for the sustainability and transformation, this is the coastal ocean assessment. The Coast Guard means, as was mentioned by Bill-san, the public opinions vis-à-vis the coastal assessment and management, they will be reflected and put an input as an input. It's a tools. By using this card, it keeps track of and predict and communicate how management decisions impact the sustainability of coastal and ocean environments. That's all. As for the function, it might sound a bit difficult for you to fathom, but as was mentioned by Bill-san in his presentation, for this project, there are three approaches. One is a report card, excuse me. So with the report card, to assess the status of social factors related to the environment, ecosystems, and their changes, it's like a great card for you. The second point is social-ecological network analysis. So the social-ecological network analysis, so by doing this, it involves identifying various community members, the ecological units, and relevance values to strategically prioritize actions and support measures. This is a function of social-ecological network analysis. The third pillar is system dynamics models. Using SDM, system dynamic models, it's a simulation method. We analyze the interrelationships between various measures and identify priority actions to be taken. It's like a feedback system based. So system dynamics, if this is used, you can analyze various interrelationships between the factors and measures, and priority actions can be identified. So you can secure the evidence-based actions. These are the three pillars. I hope so far so good. It's been understood clearly.
We have 5 speakers in this session. The first speaker, Dr. Vanessa Vajin, am I pronouncing right? Okay, thank you. From University of Maryland. She's going to talk about the Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay is, as been mentioned, it's the first place that report card was developed and installed. Okay. And and she's going to explain how it is used and in the managerial framework. And the second speaker is Professor Lourdes Cruz from National Academy of Science and Technology, Philippines. And she'll talk about the result of analysis of the recurrent, persistent, and worsening flooding in central Luzon, and based on a problem tree analysis. And the third speaker is Dr. Jody Maria Nacola from University of the Philippines, Los Baños. And she's going to talk about the insights from local ecological knowledge and the seagrass social-ecological system in remote Pag-asa Island off the West Philippine Sea. So we are going to hear what the local people are thinking about. And the fourth speaker is Dr. Akiru Tilahum Tadese, University of Oregon. He's going to talk about the system dynamics modeling applied to the Potomac watershed, which offers scientific evidence for people to decide on the coastal management method. And finally, at last, but not at least, Dr. Keita Furukawa will talk about Tokyo Bay based on stakeholders' engagement. So now let's hear what is.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Midori Sensei. I don't speak Japanese, but let me try this. Ohayo gozaimasu minasan. Watashi wa Vanessa Vargas Win desu. Kyo wa omanaki tadaki arigato.
Thank you for the invitation today. I am Vanessa Vargas Nguyen.
So thank you to Masashi-san for teaching me that yesterday. So back to English again. Thank you, everyone. I'm Vanessa Vargas Win from the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, and I'm very happy to talk to you about how we are applying the Coast Guard framework in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. There we go. So just to emphasize again what's been talked about earlier, that the Coast Guard framework is building on the report card that is being developed in the Chesapeake Bay. And we are incorporating social network analysis and systems dynamic modeling, which are traditionally social science tools, into an more environmental management type of tool, which is the report card. And so the report cards are very popular in the Chesapeake Bay. Aside from the report card that Bill mentioned, there are other bay-wide report cards in the Chesapeake Bay. And since we started this report card in 2006, there are actually a lot of regional report cards in the different tributaries in the Chesapeake Bay that are started by citizen science groups and other nonprofit organizations. While this is good for information sharing, sometimes this can cause confusion, especially if the messaging are different from this different organization. And just to give you a perspective, the Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in the United States. We are located here in the east coast of the continental United States. And it spans 6 states, including the District of Columbia, which is the capital of the United States, located. And it is one of the best examples of ecosystem-based management in the world. And it is managed by a government entity called the Chesapeake Bay Program through an adaptive management framework. So meaning there's a lot of science going on in the Bay. There's a lot of management actions. There are a lot of groups that are working to restore the Chesapeake Bay. So one of the reasons that the Chesapeake Bay report card are very important and popular is because of all this information. It's very hard to communicate them to the regular citizens and to synthesize those informations to knowledge that are actually actionable. So we were thinking that if we want to really, the report cards to contribute to Chesapeake Bay restoration, it needs to start to be based, okay, great. Based on a holistic vision for the future. So this is results of my work when I was still doing my PhD, where I interviewed a lot of stakeholders that are involved in Chesapeake Bay management, natural science, social science, and management organizations, and asked them, what is your vision for a sustainable Chesapeake Bay? And what is really noticeable in this vision statements is that it's not only environmental aspects, but also includes social, cultural, and economic aspect as well, and emphasizing the importance of addressing environmental justice issues. So we have been slowly expanding our Chesapeake Bay report card, as Bill mentioned earlier. We already have indicators in ecosystem, people and culture and economy, and we're slowly trying to incorporate some kind of governance aspect into it too. So now we want our report card process, the process of developing the report card itself, to be a vehicle of change. So we are touting Coast Guard as a new generation of report card. that incorporates these two tools that already been explained, and so that it could make the report card more holistic and actionable. And for our framework to be really successful, we require an inclusive and diverse stakeholder engagement. So not just the traditional people that we are engaging, we really have to go to the citizens, to the people, and get them to be more knowledgeable about the system. It's moving on its own, so I need to be further up. Just up. All right, so just going back to the Chesapeake Bay report card, Bill already told the story about the chicken farms and agriculture. But one thing to note is that in our social category, the stewardship is actually the lowest across all the different regions. It doesn't show up on the yellow map, but if you look at all those little pie circles, the stewardship, which is the ability of regular people to contribute or do actions to help the Chesapeake Bay, is really low. And this study is from a study that is actually done by the Chesapeake Bay program, where they did a bay-wide survey or watershed-wide survey asking people on their stewardship towards the Chesapeake Bay. So the stewardship index include personal stewardship, volunteerism. So there are a lot of people who volunteers, but they don't necessarily volunteer into like environmental focus efforts, and also civic engagement. So the stewardship index of the people in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, despite all of the science that are happening, is only 24%. So there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of stewardship potential. And also, in terms of the environmental justice index that Bill noted, it shows a strong disparity across the watershed. So this environmental justice index not only includes environmental burden, but also social vulnerability indicators as well as health vulnerability. And you can see the areas with red have the highest risk, while the green was like slightly better. But they're mostly concentrated in urban areas, and then in rural areas, and urban and rural areas, and the suburban areas are getting better. So because of this, we decided to focus our engagement to community groups so that we can be able to incorporate these different knowledge systems to address environmental justice. And this stakeholder map is actually developed from a class that Bill and I taught 2 years ago, where we asked our students, if we're thinking about addressing social or environmental justice issues, which stakeholder groups do we need to engage? And so we put them in, identify different stakeholders on this matrix of high interest versus low influence. And we identified that community groups, people, are really the ones who can make a difference if we want to address environmental justice or social issues. So we developed and pioneered this listening session format with our students, one of whom is here, Penglor. So they were with us for 10 weeks, and we tried to develop an engagement format that people can really come in and feel that they can share with us, and we can learn from them as well. So it's not just a listening session, but a learning session 2 ways. So this first one that we developed during the hottest day of the summer, so it was really hot, we were outside. The ropes were melting, it was that bad. But we stayed there, and the difference, one of the things in this engagement is that we have a trusted partner from Hood College who sent out the invitations, and people actually came. a lot of them came more than we expected, and they engaged with us for at least 30 to 6, even an hour. Stayed with us, talked to us, and shared their insights with us. So we thought it was a very successful format of engaging stakeholders. And so this year, with the new batch of students, we hosted 5 more listening sessions, 3 of which were more geographically selected and 2 were more targeted. But the difference is that we didn't send out invitation. We posted our event in the social media, in community and groups and things like that. So our goal here is to meet people where they're at. So we just set up. So in this case, we are in a park. Unfortunately, the air quality was really bad, so not a lot of people were outside. But still, people who were in the park, we invited them, they came and stayed with us. The next one is in a Washington sailing marina where people learn how to sail. So people who come there are actually more, likes to do water activities. The next one is in Upper Potomac, so located in the upper part of the watershed. And this is located in a, like a bike path. It's a very long bike path called, and tourist area called the CNO Canal. So a lot of people who are biking, we stop them, offer them some water and drinks so they can come to our stations. There's also a farmer's market during that time, so we were able to engage a lot of people. And this one is after a scientific meeting, so most of our participants are scientists. And this last listening session we did last summer is after a church service. So one of our students is part of a church network. So they allowed us to set up where they're having their church service. And after the church service, we have food, we have our stations there, and they came out, you see, and they engaged with us, and we learned from each other through this. So I'm just gonna go quickly on what the stations look like so you'll have an idea of what they are. So first we have a station we call Why Should You Care? So the goal is to develop a shared understanding with our stakeholders, and we ask them questions like, what do you value about the watershed? So this graphic on the right, it's a Mentimeter that populates throughout the day. So the bigger the word, the more people say the same thing. And then afterwards, we analyze them and we group them together so you can see that the values that people see, regular citizens see about the Chesapeake Bay or the Potomac watershed is clean water and recreation. We ask them the same questions about threats, and it boils down to climate change, development, pollution. So we also ask them like suggestions for indicators. The idea behind this, if the indicators that people value are in the report card, they're more apt to really consume the content. So we were able to get some suggestions for indicators that we are hoping to develop and include in future report cards. But we do have a preliminary report card for the Potomac, which is a sub-basin of the Chesapeake Bay. We picked this one because the bay is really big. So in terms of targeted listening sessions, we started on the Potomac watershed still. So I think we ran out of it, but there's a QR code if you guys want to see what the Potomac report card looked like. We also have a station on social network analysis, asking people, who do you work with, who do you wish to work with? And you can see the yellow sticky are stakeholders, and who they work with are the green ones. The pink ones are who they wish to work with, and they really indicated they want to work with people who works on different aspects of the watershed, not just environment. And the next steps is to develop an actual social network. One of our students is doing this already, so hopefully we'll have more. But the idea is to identify those connector, the knowledge brokers that will be able to have the different groups be the vehicle of connecting and linkages. And we have a station on asking people, where do we go? So we ask them, what is your vision for a sustainable Potomac? And we do have a similar poster outside asking about what is your vision for a sustainable coastal system? So please feel free to share your thoughts with us, and we can incorporate that in our coastal system vision. We ask them what can be done, and then again, we integrate them. And in this case, we identified 8 vision statements and then 6 priority actions that we can do to achieve that vision. We have a station on the systems dynamic modeling. I won't go into details because Dr. Aklilu will talk about that later on in his presentation. And towards the end, we had an evaluation for stakeholders who attended, and this is the work by our student Peng. And we asked them, trying to assess if that engagement was effective. And across the board, in this different prompt, they agree that they feel that they heard and they learned something from our listening session. So finally, I just want to end with what I feel like the different pathways that we in Coast Guard are trying to advocate on how to achieve a sustainable socio-environmental system. So wherever you're at, start with basic science and research. We need those data. We need the monitoring data, data analysis that can feed into the model or report card. But we have be able to find a way to communicate them and to synthesize those information so that the people who really need those information, not just us, can actually learn from it. And finally, then the transdisciplinary approach that Bill was mentioning, this is incorporating social and environmental values and really doing stakeholder engagement. And we saw a lot of those different types of engagement in the last 2 days, so we're very hopeful for the future. And finally, in what I call socio-environmental problem solving, which is teaching people, building capacity so that they'll be able to do the same thing, and environmental governance, which is not just top-down approach or bottom-up approach, but a more holistic way of governing, having all those things interconnected. So this is our group. Thank you very much. Domo arigatou gozaimasu.
Vanessa, ありがとうございます。
Thank you, Vanessa. So I would like to ask people if they have a question. Now, we don't have much time, so just one question. Does anyone would have a question about Vanessa and the Chesapeake Bay watershed? So Chesapeake Bay, this is an excellent model for Coast Guard, I think. And if there are any questions about it, we would want to entertain them. Well, I think there may be time later on, so we will stop here.
The next speaker is Professor Lourdes Clus. Lourdes Clus. Okay. She's going to talk about the problem tree analysis of the recurrent persistence and worsening flooding in central Luzon, the Philippines.
Good morning. I'm trying to remember the Japanese terms from Vanessa, but pardon me. It's a senior moment. So I just want to thank the organizer, Keita, and his team. And I also want to thank Bill Denison and Professor Nadaoka for bringing, the concepts of environmental science and the importance of caring for our environment in a scientific way. And we're learning a lot from both of them. So I'm going to describe the approach that we are now doing to this water problems of Central Luzon. Okay, and just let me tell you that, well, we're part of Future Earth, which is a global initiative for sustainability and resilience, and a platform for collaboration. It has been there for 2 decades of global environmental change research. And we started Future Earth Philippines as the Future Earth was also launched in 2018. And our mission, main mission, is to increase the country's biocapacity and to reduce its ecological footprint as a path to Philippine sustainability and resilience. And the vision is a progressive and resilient Philippines sustained by inclusive science and technology innovation and a culture of integrity, equity, and Filipino values. Okay, so we're going to focus on this part of the Philippines. It's north of Manila Bay. It's part of the Manila Bay watershed. As you can see, there's an intricate network of rivers and, in the wetlands of central Luzon. And what brought national attention to this particular area is the July 2023 Typhoon Egay and the southwest monsoon occurring concurrently. And there's a state of calamity was declared, and this attracted wide media coverage and national attention, including President Marcos going there. And then one of the representatives countering a proposal from one of the advisors of the Marcos government. And so this, you see the plight of people in the wetland, the riparian towns of Pampanga and Bulacan. But so this was a one-time event, the typhoon and Habagat that occurred in July. But unknown to many, these towns have experienced worsening daily flooding as the high tide comes in every day. Every day they're flooded. They've been flooded for the past 2 decades. And they attributed this to clogged drainage and siltation, and this together with sea level rise and land subsidence in the area. But certainly the situation is much more complex. And so here is the community visits that we did in June, before the typhoon occurred. So we were aware of the daily problems there, and you can see now pathwalks made of bamboo. And there's in the upper quadrant, a picture of us walking towards a house. And here are the feedbacks, a summary from the residents that we interviewed and the LGUs, that we learned that the LGU, the local government unit efforts, that their efforts to address the flooding problems include dikes and raising of the roads every 5 years, just so the roads will be passable. However, they also believe that this is temporary solution and a better long-term and inclusive plan must be crafted. But the funds of the local governments are of course limited. And the residents, they are aware that only those with financial capacity can add upper floors to their houses. So that was, at this point, some of the roads are already at the level of the windows of the houses by the roads. And they're aware that only those with enough financial capacity can add upper floors in their houses to serve as living quarters. And they usually abandon the lower floors as these get flooded every time the tide comes in. Others give up and just abandon their houses completely. And those with limited finances seek refuge with relatives or community facilities when there are typhoons and massive flooding. But despite the problems, some residents refuse to leave their communities because they said, this is where we've spent all our lives. And, of course, there's problem with sanitation, septic tanks submerged, high coliform level in rivers, schools, frequent suspension of classes and absences, and daily exposure of children to floodwaters on the way to school. So we talked to the LGUs, communities, and the Department of Science and Technology of that particular region has been collaborating with us. And so this is an example of the workshop that we had. And so there's a problem tree analysis there, here. And so the workshop and then the workshop participants are reporting, and some experts, some of our scientists, we had geologists, biologists, mangrove experts like Georgine Primavera, and then we had the involvement also of Wetlands International. And so some leaders of national agencies and a congresswoman from Pampanga also attended. But she is a medical doctor. And so the result of that consultation, I'm sorry that this is not clear, but we had two whole day sessions plus Zoom meetings to come up with this problem tree analysis. And the central problem that was identified is the worsening, widening, and persistent flooding in Pampanga and Bulacan towns. Before that, we visited about 12 towns, 12 municipalities in Pampanga. And the problems that were identified include, of course, the too much rain. Let me. There's, and then submersion of the roads, soil erosion, soil erosion, the silted rivers, ground subsidence. Oops, I think I went past. So the problem that was identified include the soil erosion, heavily silted rivers, ground subsidence, sea level rise, obstruction of natural drainage and waterways. So those were the first level causes that were identified. And there were second level causes, for example, in the obstruction of natural drainage systems, there were illegal fish pond structures that were identified in unsound placement of large infrastructure by the government and private citizens. And then they identified also third level causes, the causes of the cause of that cause, and then fourth level, fifth level, and finally the root cause is the lack of official and citizen understanding of what was happening in the area. And there's lack of government resolve and commitment of resources to solve the problems. And then in the upper part of the tree so we divided this into flooding of homes, flooding of streets, flooding of government offices, flooding of the rice fields and other work areas, and flooding of other communal areas. And then again, because of that, there were second level, third level, fourth level, fifth level consequences, and eventually all of that leads to the poor quality of life of the people in Pampanga and Bulacan. And from the problem trees, we then constructed the objective tree. Those in the black are those causes which we're now trying to do something about, but the black ones are the ones that we cannot really do anything about. So, because the ultimate cause of the rain is the climate change. And here, the sea level rise also because of climate change eventually. And so we're now going to work with them with respect to the other causes. And the next step is that we will do strategic each sector or multi-stakeholder group can identify a particular problem that they want to solve and do strategic pathways, trace strategic pathways, and do strategic framework that can lead to logical frameworks for trying to propose a problem and do something, contribute to the solution to the tree, to the problem tree. So we consider flooding in central Luzon as a wicked problem. So it's a complex, multifaceted challenges characterized by their interconnected nature and ambiguity. And so this is really exceptionally difficult to address through traditional linear problem-solving methods. The usual methods that are offered are engineering methods and engineering solutions, which we know throughout the years don't really work by itself. So we're exploring the flooding problem using 3 essential analytical tools: problem tree analysis, objective tree analysis, drafting of strategic pathways and strategic frameworks, and hoping that we can make the agencies, the schools, different stakeholders to sort of pledge their commitment to trying to solve each of the problems that we have identified. And we hope these methods will offer a structured approach to understanding, addressing wicked problems with an emphasis on flexibility, adaptability, and a multi-stakeholder collaboration. Oops, so that's it. Oh, and then, you know, we are addressing now this to the national government and national agencies. And we want to propose that this kind of analysis be done every 5 years. But in the meantime, we hope to be able to use something like a scorecard, like the Coast Guard, so that we can have this maybe every year, leading to finally every 5 years for adaptive management, so that we will review and look at the solutions that have been proposed and then adjust this. So that's what we have been trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lourdes Cruz. 何かこうご質問とか。
Are there any questions?
It's about the Luzon flooding disaster, and they have worked on the problem tree analysis, and we have seen the problem trees, which shows the structure of the very complex wicked problem. はい、どうぞ。
Yes, please.
Either way.
Maybe 日本語でしたね。
Maybe I didn't fully understand, but your methodology.
Very impressive, but the factors you indicated have gravity or importance, the degree of importances in each factors, and they must be different each other. So you have to count the degree of importance in each factors. Otherwise, you can. Well, otherwise, you have already pointed out any factors, and of course, I understand the relationships of each point should be important, but the point or importance is much more important. You understand?
Yes. I mean, we should set priorities.
Yes, priorities.
Do we have resources to be able to address this? Or are there people who can really help us address this? We will do this in the national workshop that's scheduled on November 28th. where we invited people from Central Luzon, other parts of the Philippines. We're inviting also some senators and the heads of the national government agencies. So we are still in the process of trying to really understand the problem.
But at least you can propose the point or importance or the sequence of the
yes.
Priority in these different point.
Yes, I think the obstruction of illegal some illegal we consider not properly placed fish ponds. But the problem is the Bureau of Fisheries denied that there are illegal fish ponds. So it may be because they're all certified by the government. So that means the certification is not proper. Things like that that we need. And then also the illegal logging. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources said, no, there's no illegal logging. And then the rest of the stakeholders there said, if there's no illegal logging, where are the trees?
Maybe through space of the agencies related to the disasters might be depending on your lackness of the showing at least the priorities,
Yes.
See the which is important and which is less important, and maybe you can give the point in each
the importance.
The items.
I think we should look at the importance and the urgency for each of the factors being so. Yes, thank you very much for your input.
Thank you very much for your question. I think it's just still on the process, so we still have to wait.
Yes, I know.
まだ途中なので。
Yes, this is still in the process. Thank you very much.
時間が押してますので。
So we're pressed for time, so we must go on. And the next speaker is Professor Hildy Nakorda.
The next speaker is Hildy Maria Nakorda, and she's talking about the insights from local ecological knowledge and the seagrass social-ecological system in remote Pag-asa Island off the West Philippine Sea.
Okay, I changed the slide a bit, but it's not here. Ta-da! Good morning still. Okay, from the experience last night, which I'm thankful for, I remember tempura, sushi, acai. I thought there was also sake. And belated happy birthday. Yeah. So going back from the presentations of tools, of analysis of experiences, I'd like to take you to one of the basic steps of engaging with people from remote islands. This happened to be the island of Pag-asa, located in the West Philippine Sea. The Pag-asa Island is one of now 8 islands that belongs to the municipality of Kalayaan. Their main seat of government is in Puerto Princesa City, but the only inhabited island with more than 2 persons is Pag-asa Island. The other islands are often inhabited by changing anong tawag dun? a chain of soldiers who are trained to stay in islands for at least 3 months. Why are we interested in SES? We'd like to know talking about SES is actually looking at human-environment interactions. And from the perspective of what we learned from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, when we had the Corva program led by Laura David, coral reefs, seagrass, and mangroves interact together and play a big role in a lot of things. Unfortunately, we don't have mangroves in Pag-asa Island. I'm sharing this talk making this on behalf of Ms. Dr. Charissa Ferreira, Ms. Desiree Eve Maanyo of the DNR, and our project lead, program lead, Fernando Siringan, who is a geologist. So I'm going to take you to there. It takes one sunset to reach Pag-asa Island from Manila Bay. You see the green arrow there. That's the location of Pag-asa. It has a contiguous atoll, and it is the only. It is part of the dangerous grounds, with internationally known dangerous grounds, but it is a very important maritime zone. Okay. In 2001, Dr. Rene Rollion was able to describe in 6 days of his presence in 1999 the seagrasses of Pag-asa, largely Thalassia hemprichi. He noted that these beds were young, they were not even 1 year old, and they were rapidly expanding because they had a lot of apices. And then when he looked at the vertical internodes, he was seeing unimodal annual trends in lengths, particularly in seagrasses at the south of the runway. That is the runway. And that is how it looks in 2005. He also observed that the Thalassia hemprichi at time of sampling had, through reconstruction technique, had seasonal flowering production, and there was high seedling recruitment. In that report that he gave as a short communication in aquatic botany, he mentioned Halophila ovalis, present at 18 meters, also at the south of the island. Yeah. Sorry. Fast forward 2017, there came an opportunity through the interagency marine science research in the West Philippine Sea that is auspiced by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, University of the Philippines, and the Philippine Navy. So here, there was a big group that dealt with physical processes, physicochemical, I should say. There was a group that wanted to look at microbes. I was part of the marine biology team that looked at corals, seagrass, reef fish. And there was one big group also that looked at features, underwater features, and then recreated the history of the island. That was the plan for the observations for the seagrass, and from here we were able to calculate that seagrass beds occupied only about 24% of the reef flat. Okay. The other sites that were not enclosed in yellow line were confirmed seaweed beds. So here are the seagrasses. If before only Thalassia hemprichi was found, we also found and reported that there was Halodula uninervis, and this was vegetatively active. Thalassia hemprichi is as productive. It was fruiting at the time that we were there. And then we were seeing also lots of, thank you. Okay, so this is the vegetative, This is the vegetatively active Halodula uninervis in B. This has been present in 2001 and continues to be found at that time, 2017. And this is Halophila ovalis that you find in not so much of sediments and sometimes often mixed at the edges of the island. Okay. We were pleased to find the beds harboring conspicuous benthos, and these benthos had had species for gleaning and for potential culture, but unexpectedly they were not exploited. So this is, just believe me, this is the Trypnustes gratila, the sea urchin, and this is Holoturia atra. We also found Istodactyl giganteus, anemone fish, some with Nemo, some not. Then we also have the boring clam, Tridacna crocea, much of them, and also the endangered Hippopus hippopus, a lot of Marginopora on seagrass blades. And then in some portions of at the north, we found clumps of Heliopora querulea, or the blue coral, known to be to signify the influence of freshwater input from submarine groundwater discharge. We also looked at we also looked at the invertebrates that were associated with seagrass, and at the time of sampling, we found 7 that were dominating all 30 samples from the island. And this is what you see on the screen. The scale bar is 1 millimeter. In previous work, workers identified that invertebrates and fish species in or near the island were assumed to contribute to nutritional needs of households. I mean, where else? Because boats that bring in goods from the mainland Palawan will not come by very often. The question that we wanted to answer in this initial presentation is, what does local knowledge reveal of the residents' awareness of and dependence on coastal resources in Pag-asa Island, Kalayaan Island Group? So we conducted interview surveys in May 2022. We told them that we were coming, but since it's after fiesta, we had to make do with the respondents that were left in the island. So all 17 respondents aged 23 to 47 were approached. All of them were from outside the island. Nobody was born in Pag-asa. Okay. There were new residents who were in the island at least less than a year, to old residents spanning 19 years. They all acknowledged that they were on and are on government-owned land. The interviewees were 12 male and 5 female. Most of them had quit school after reaching first-year college. Half of them were married. Most were heads of the family. And the median household size was 4 persons. Their income ranged from 6,000 to 70,000. Most of them had 2 employed people in their household, but these members of the household also engage in fishing and gleaning for about 2 to 8 hours. They say they are able to save a bit because the expenses range only from 3,000 to 20,000 a month. Okay. So what is known to them about seagrass? Seagrass architecture is known. They don't confuse it with seaweeds. Seagrass is known in Palawan and in the island as baryaw-baryaw. Some who do not speak the language call it lusay, in contrast to the seaweed sargassum, which are known to them as kulafu. So they know that seagrasses had leaves, and the bar that you see are frequencies of interviewees that said so. They had leaves, the leaves are green, and they also had roots and rhizomes. Majority agree that the meadows provided them with ecosystem services. In a previous program, we wanted to determine the extent of a seagrass bed that will deliver a particular kind of ecosystem service. But gauging from their experience with being in the seagrass bed often in a day, they acknowledge that these are ecosystem services indeed. Where did you learn all of them? They acknowledge that they also learned this from their own observations of how seagrasses are and where the animals are. They learned it also from media, school, social media, and some training opportunities. They know that cutting beach vegetation induces erosion and reduces coastal water quality. It comes about as a cause of having roots and rhizomes that help prevent erosion, and this also is true for beach vegetation. That plants trap particles to increase the clarity of the water, but when we ask the question about siltation, periodic silt that makes the water blurred, everybody became confused and agreed that it does not affect seagrass. The beds served as home and nesting and feeding areas to many organisms. They always introduce them as in their vernacular. The top bars you see are for turtles because the turtles are there. And the bottom is for urchins. They're not sure whether urchins really eat seagrass. Okay. Most of them visited seagrass meadows for one purpose, and that is gleaning. That's for 12 of the interviewees. Okay, and some engage in fishing, but none of them really does serious fishing in the seagrass bed. They do this all year round, but more so from January to May during low tide and for household consumption. The terms you see here are how they call the gleaned products or the cleaned organisms. Lapu-lapu is grouper. Pasyak is a gastropod that is the conch. Tirek is the sea urchin. Sikad-sikal is the lambis, is the tiger conch. And lato is caulerpa. And pugita is octopus. They have various ways of catching them. They believe that meadows do not affect the growth of coral reefs and beaches. I'm sorry, they do not believe because the question was posed the other way around. They believe that their seagrasses are also in good state and that their present-day meadows and beach vegetation seem to have thinned, however, and have decreased in extent. Beach vegetation, on the other hand, appeared to be in good state despite the thinning observation, and coral reefs appeared good in state and some were damaged because there were observations of reefs bearing larger dead areas and were covered with algae. In 2023 June, this is now Pag-asa Island. There is a construction of a wharf, a berthing area for the research vessel of visiting research vessels here. So goodbye Halophila ovalis that I have found here in 2017. Hopefully there are others to find in this area. Okay. What is the outlook for the next 10 years? Well, all negative. Seagrass meadows would be damaged. Coral reefs would also be damaged. And beach vegetation may remain the same or disappear. All of this pointing to potential vulnerability of the community and to food insecurity. We jump to how is it if there will be interventions. The community pointed two things. One, that they will be supporting the strategy of government leading the protection and conservation and management programs. Pamahalaan is government, community is comunidad. Whether you are living inside or near the coast, whether you're a fisher, you will be involved, including the personnel, the uniformed personnel. Apart from helping in this strategy, they have committed to engage themselves in both short and long-term initiatives that would be prepared for the island. This is in process and many are already making progress in their engagement and making their presence felt in the island. And this is consistent with the drive of the government to continue with programs that will address the social ecological systems, of course topping that with internal measures, internal security, and as well regional mechanisms that must be reached to improve coastal habitats and coastal ecological systems in the KAG. We do this not only to maintain ecosystem services and biodiversity, because fisheries from the West Philippine Sea in general contribute 2 to 5% of total capture fisheries, and that's huge for any island. We know that a lot of the propagules that emerge from the West Philippine Sea or the Pag-asa Island, or KIG for that matter, are distributed around the South China Sea. Where do seagrasses from the Pag-asa Island come from? We thought that in coming to visit the different islands that has potential seagrass, we did not find them. And the only island that has propagules of seagrass that may pass through the Pag-asa Island is the one that is occupied by Taiwan. And at the same time in 2017 that we were there, Professor Alan Chen was also in that island doing seagrass work and coral work. I'd like to end here because I'd like to maintain and be hopeful, because Pag-asa means hope, and we would like to encourage not only citizen scientists, actors in the field like the academic institutions already partnering with the National Security Council, but also with the whole of Palawan, who we are trying to train for citizen science, not only to take care of their seas, internal seas, but also reaching out to sites such as remote one in Pag-asa Island. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you, Hiroji.
ヘルズ先生、ありがとうございました。質問がありますか？
No? Okay. Because we are kind of
スケジュールに遅れをきたしておりますので、次の演者に行きたいと思います。We are behind the schedule, so I'd like to invite the next speaker. Next speaker is Dr. Akril Tadashi.
Oh yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Speaker is Akril Tadashi. He's going to talk about the impact of agricultural nutrient pollution of the Potomac River, a case of animal farming in 3 counties of the Potomac watershed. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and present our work in this with this group of people. We really appreciate your help and also your hospitality and all the good trip we had last night. I'm Aklilu Tadasa from the University of Bergen. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow in University of Bergen within the System Dynamics group. And I am working together with the Norway project leader, Professor Paul Davidson, and we work on 3 of the 5 Coast Guard project sites. Mainly we are responsible for the Chesapeake Bay, for the Manila Bay, and for the Goa Coast system dynamics modeling activities. Just to give you a little bit of a highlight, within the Chesapeake Bay, we are focused on the Potomac watershed. The Potomac watershed is the second largest watershed, and it covers about 40,000 square kilometers and supports more than 6 million people, which are part of 4 different states: the Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia, as well as it includes also the capital, the District of Columbia. And there are about 53 different counties in the Potomac watershed, but we identified 3 counties as a pilot study area for our project. That's Frederick, St. Mary, and the Shenandoah counties. And in this, within these 3 counties, we are more focused on identifying or in studying the nutrient runoff from plant and animal farms. Why we are focused on agriculture? Well, studies show that reducing nutrient load to meet what they call it the Chesapeake Bay diet, or the total maximum daily load water quality goal, depends largely on reducing non-point source pollution. Those are from agriculture and urban runoff. And non-point sources, particularly this agriculture and urban runoff combined, contribute about 78% of the nitrogen load and 74% of the phosphorus load to the Chesapeake Bay. If we focus only on agriculture, we see that about 40% of the total load comes from agriculture. And if we further go down and look into the agriculture, even from agriculture, 18% of the nitrogen and 27% of the phosphorus actually comes from animal manure. So animal agriculture and also plant agriculture are both important for our studies. And we also looked into the non-point sources and we have learned from the literature that they have proven to be very challenging to reduce the load. Why? At least if we see from the studies that were done the observations made between 2009 and 2021, what we can learn that about 65% of the nutrient load to the Chesapeake Bay came from mostly wastewater and 25% were mostly from atmospheric deposition reductions. But only 8% of the nitrogen and 12% of the phosphorus reduction were managed to be attained from the agriculture and urban runoff. So there is a huge potential for reducing nutrient load, and that's why we are mainly focused on studying the agriculture. And what we do is we try to build a system dynamics model, particularly focusing on the socio-economic aspect to identify the drivers and incentives for such high sustained level of nutrient runoff, and to assess and also suggest potential solutions that might change the observed scenario. And for the purpose, I will here focus mainly on the animal production. We try to capture the animal production, particularly by representing their development across the different ages or the different phases. We do have the early animal phase, the early stage, and those early stage animals could grow either breeders that would further give production, or they could go to the market. And if it's a dairy production, actually the male animals, after they were born, they could be veiled and so could be sent into market or could be slaughtered after a certain period. If you look only the beef production, you would have the same structure. So more or less we have about 12 different kinds of animals that we have identified. We can be able to capture them in a nearly similar structure that would provide us a good representation of what's going on there. We do not only focus on their production, but then also how about the products they generate. Say, for example, their milk production or their meat production. How would that support the economy, and how the income generated from these animals would come back also to sustain the production system. Those are the things that we try to capture in our model. We do not only capture that, but also we capture where do these animals spend most of their time, and so how these nutrients are loaded in the different areas. So we have their barnyard where they spend, or whether they could be in riparian pasture areas, or are they mostly spending in pasture areas. So we try to see where the animals are spending their time and how much nutrient or manure is generated in these different areas, and how this manure has been captured or has been affecting the environment. So we try to capture the flow of the nutrient all in this system. And what we have observed from our work, and also from the literatures and the data that we have captured, we have gathered, and also the data we found from the works done throughout the years in Chesapeake Bay, is that particularly in Frederick County, the dairy production has to be, or the dairy animals has to be so high, but recently it has been declining, as indicated by the dotted red lines, and also their contribution in terms of nutrient, particularly nitrogen, has been so high in Frederick County, as well as also their phosphorus production. If we look the case in Shenandoah, you would see that the broilers, or what we call chicken meat production, has been so high compared to the other animals, and also to a certain extent also the beef production. And if we look into their manure production, we see that both broilers and beef contribute to a larger extent of the nitrogen production, and for the phosphorus as well. So we try to see how this nitrogen and phosphorus from the different animals have been contributed through this animal production, and then we try to see how also this nutrients have been utilized in those counties. And you can see here how much amount of the generated nutrient has been applied for the production, and you see still that the red line is the one that had been applied, and the blue line is the one that had been generated. Across the years, the amount of utilization of the nutrient generated has been improving. Previously they have been using a smaller amount, but now it has been improving, but there is still a potential to utilize the nutrient generated both in Frederick County as well as in also the Shenandoah County. This is the phosphorus utilization in Frederick, and this is the Shenandoah utilization of the nitrogen and the phosphorus. So there are gaps, there are improvements, but still there is a potential to utilize that. We do not only stop in analyzing how the manure from the animals has been utilized, but we also try to have an account of what we call the nutrient mass balance, where the nutrient from animals have been applied in the field areas, but how that have flow into the plant production, and how the nutrient in the plants absorbed by the plants actually come back and feed the animals, or could be consumed by the human being, and the waste from the waste from the human being might be utilized to again produce a plant production, or could come further and pollute the environment. So we try to also account the nutrient mass balance in the system. Thereby, we can have a general aggregate structure that tells what's going on there and how the nutrient has been flowing in the system. So Our work is still in progress, but we have some potential policies that we have suggested, and some of them are already now in place. At least we have learned that we would love if the manure transport could be increased, particularly transport from one county to another and be applied. And we have learned that there are certain activities that these manures have been implemented. And we have also learned that particularly the scientific, technical, and advisory committee has advised or has encouraged the nutrient reduction, particularly based on this what they call performance-based nutrient reduction reward to the community or to those producers, so that the highly concentrated nutrient in a certain area could be reduced because they get some subsidies. But we do have also other suggestions. For example, increasing in food tax. Maybe this is a quite debatable question, it could be a challenging issue for implementation, but we do have suggestions maybe for increasing food tax that would help reduce the nutrient reduction, or incentivizing also what they call the food to table movement through the subsidization of local production. So these are the policies that we have at the moment thinking about, but we haven't yet made a conclusion because it's a work in progress. We will update you as we go through. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akriel.
With this system dynamics model is discussed, any questions or comments? Are there any burning questions you'd like to ask him?
No? Okay. じゃあ、それでは最後の
The speaker is invited here. Dr. Keita Furukawa, please.
じゃあ、お願いします。So now we have the last speaker, Keita Furukawa, about the Tokyo Bay restoration with stakeholder engagement.
So just we are coming in the time of the good afternoon. My name is Keita Furukawa from the Association for the Shore Environment Creation. So this is a kind of the non-profit organization, and we always thank for the Tokyo Bay. It says thank you for the Tokyo Bay in Japanese, and some associate are wearing the as a uniform, so you can see that some people are wearing and sitting in your side. So today I'd like to speak about the Tokyo Bay restoration with the stakeholder engagement, especially the citizen science collaboration. But some of you are not familiar with the Tokyo Bay, so I'd like to make a very, very brief quick look at where is Tokyo Bay. We are in the Tokyo, and Tokyo is 7,500 square kilometers of the watershed they have, and you can see many coastal cities, and 30 million people lives, and 1/3 of the industry in Japan is just concentrated in Tokyo Bay area. The Tokyo Bay area is now looking like a rectangular shape of the 50 kilometers by 20 kilometers and averagingly 50-meter depth. But on the mouth, you can see the more than 600-meter depth trench is cutted, so this is a very unique shape. And if you look up to the top of the bay, you can see some deep hole because of the taking a sediment for the reclamation. And we have a very good development in Tokyo Bay. So Tokyo Bay is a center of the economy and center for the maritime transport. And still we have a prestigious natural resources remaining, and the human is using for their leisures or fishing and so on. But during the development, especially in the 1960s, we had a very severe deterioration due to the high nutrient loading from the industries and households, so the water quality goes bad and serious sludge was deposited under the sea. So governmental sides, they try to control, not manage, that the control for the total pollutant load control system is implemented since 1979 all over the Japan, especially for Tokyo Bay, Ise Bay, and Seto Inland Sea. And that is based on the basic Act for the Water Quality Control. And the Minister of the Environment decided the basic policy of that, and prefectural government making control plan implementation. Namely threefold, that is a total pollutant load control on discharge load amount, and reduction guidance, and project implementation. Due to that, the inflow or flux of the nutrient, this is a COD, so the indicator of the organic matters is drastically decreased, and load per unit is gradually decreased, and also the as a result, the total nitrogen at the sea surface is also decreased. But as you see that if we compare the area, the Tokyo Bay is now going down, Osaka Bay is going down, Ise Bay is going down. But the Tokyo Bay has still in the difficulty for thinking about. So about 100 days we have a red tide, and most of the years we have suffered from the anoxic water lay down to the bottom of the water. And sometimes the hydraulic sulfur is coming up to the surface. We say this is blue tide, and since this is a toxic water, sometimes we found that massive mortality. And fish catch is declined, and some people say that that is correlated with the reclamation area, but the things is not simple as you see. So under these circumstances, since 2003, the Tokyo Bay Restoration Action Plan has been enacted. Mr. Ise yesterday presented the more background about why the governmental decision has been made for this. And I just concentrate of the each individual action plan. Since this action plan is a 10 years action plan, so the first one started in 2003, and next one followed by the 2013. So the first one, just a good formation made for the governmental system to look after for the land-based pollution and sea-based countermeasures, and monitoring for the evaluation. But after the 10 years, the government realized that not only for the government, but also the other sectors should be involved. But that is a little bit difficult to welcome into the governmental system to, for the NPOs or fishery people directly. So public-private partnership forum has been made to making a bilateral communication between. And PPP forum making a project team to look after for the specific target. And third plan just started in 2023 this year. And within this action plan, the third target is expansion of engagement. And the target description is saying that we try to reach out to the 30 million people who live in the Tokyo Bay watershed. So this is a big challenge for this. So the PPP forum is trying to thinking how we can proceed. We need a good indicator, as Bill mentioned. That, in the second phase, we have 28 indices. So that is a little bit difficult to see at a glance. So the only 7 indices, primary indices, are chosen, and we just present for Tokyo Bay Action Plan Committee, and the governmental system is now under reviewing this. And not only for the evaluation, but we need to proceed. So our side, the PPP side, or our association is now proposing to having the Tokyo Bay Green Belt strategies. We're not saying that the Blue Belt strategies, because we are thinking about the good relation with the land and the sea, so that maybe we can use a GB belt for following with Professor Nadaoka. But if we look through the Tokyo Bay area, that overall environment still have a difficulty. But if we look at the point by point, so many interesting point is over there. Odaiba Seaside Park, we had a cruise last night, or Sanbanse Tidal Flat is a tidal flat in the very top of the bay, and that is remaining natural tidal flat covered by the constructed area, and Takeshiba constructed tidal area. This is just small, that 30-meter width and 20-meter length. So, but this is constructed by the 100% private company. So this kind of activity is already started. I'm not going all of them, but the place was ready. But the problem is who look after for this environment. Now we are understanding that only the construction is not good enough for taking action. We have to look after. So the citizen action is now be requested, and we try to do the good engagement ourselves and good engagement for the various stakeholders. So we are very much, pretty much expected the outcome of the Coast Guard project, and also the output from this international workshop on the eelgrass and blue carbon. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Furukawa 先生。ありがとうございました。
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Furukawa. Are there any questions? So time is pressing, so this concludes session 4.
I'd like to say thank you very much for this attending, and pass the mic to Saiki-san. 川辺さん。
So, Kabe-san and the presenters for session 4, thank you very much. And now we would like to do a wrap-up of Amamo 2023. We'd like to ask Dr. Furukawa, please.
改めましてまた。
So I'm here once again, and I am from the Association for Shore Environment Creation. My name is Furukawa. And well, our time is limited, so we cannot go into a long discussion, but I would like to close the Amamo Blue Carbon Workshop talking about the way forward. And in the morning, we had online distribution streaming, and after the morning, we will close the online streaming. So I think you are looking at the Amamo 2023 declaration and the final summary. Well, you can look at the draft today, and then online well, the fact that this draft was made is going to be communicated, and then we will wait for responses so that we can finalize the declaration. Today, we have this just the framework or the skeleton of what was discussed over the past 3 days. So let's look at it one after another. So the first paragraph, global and marine environment in crisis. So what kind of crisis is before us is indicated: global warming and the degradation of natural ecosystems, and along with that, the loss of biodiversity. And if there are other aspects to add, we would like to have your input. And next paragraph. So to address this, what is the strategy or the policy to address this? There are all kinds of crises, and we're not going to focus on just one, but we need to address them in a balanced manner. And over the past 3 days, we learned various terms like blue carbon, and Professor Duarte talked about the blue natural capital. And then after that, from the other keynote speakers, we heard about nature-based solution, blue carbon credit, and blue carbon market. Through these actions, ultimately, the blue economy and people's lives can be promoted. So we are thinking about this kind of big policy. And then next section. So when actually putting into action, what should be considered? For example, should we say indigenous peoples or traditions? In other words, the wisdom from the past and local culture have to be respected. And this time, we heard many times about the community interests, and simply not just financial, but social and natural interests should be prioritized. And community is a very limited target, but it should not be for short-term gains or losses, but rather there should be long-term perspective of investment in the future. So if there are other things to consider or other ways of thinking in terms of consideration, please give us your input. Next paragraph. Tools for implementation. That is based on scientific evidence, awareness, education, transparent information should be disclosed. There was talk about database to have the full and thorough investigations, research, and the latest technology needs to be used because there are many state-of-the-art technology being developed. And if there are other special things to consider, not just new things, then again, I would like to hear from you. Now, next paragraph. This is a summary of the past 3 days in the form of sentences. That is, through AMAMO 2023, we've heard about fishermen's and determination, power of continuity, citizens' collaboration, governance by the government, corporate efforts, citizens' viewpoints, elementary school students' enthusiasm, high school students' spirit of inquiry, eyes to see the truth, expansion to young people, the desire to communicate difficult but important things, and science communication. We reaffirmed these important aspects, and the final paragraph is about what to do going forward. And actually, well, we need to take action now. We will build a socio-environmental network, advance our understanding of dynamic systems and evaluate the environment while aiming for social change in an adaptive manner. And well, after we need to take action now, probably there should be an inclusion of the vision we need to have. And with regards to such a vision, well, as we heard from Nguyen-san, outside this hall, we have some post-its where you can write down vision. So you can write it there, or if you have a certain vision, then I hope that you can communicate it to us. So this is just an outline, and if you can agree with this, or are there anything that you would like changed now, and then we will have communication over the net for further finalization. But if there is anything you would like to say now.
Japanese, but you have a draft translation for your hand, so you can follow, and we are very welcome to your input through personal communication or email communication. Either way, we are expecting maybe within the time of the 1 month, 1ヶ月ぐらいで、そういった。
So we will have communication over the next month, so that within the year we can finish this declaration. So when we send you the email, we hope that you will respond. So at this point in time, is there anything that you would like to say? Professor Hayashi, and I saw another person.
じゃあ、エイミーさん先に。
First, Amy, and then she's in the middle around the staircase, and then Professor Hayashi, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Kita, he is our technical session chair, so we basically agree with the statement in principle. I just want to know, what is the target? I probably missed it when you introduced it earlier. I mean, so we have a month to work on the declaration, but where are we bringing this declaration to?
Right.
Just to be clear. Thank you.
このデクラレーションを誰に向けて発信するのか大変。
Yes, that's a very important question.
It is fair enough for asking that, and I'm thinking as this international workshop is a gathering of the multi-stakeholders. You can see the governmental people sitting and the fishery people sitting. Unfortunately, they have another commitment, so that today is lacking some of them. But in total, we have a whole stakeholder engagement in this gathering. So I can say the target is ourselves. We are also the part of the stakeholders. So we are the representative of the stakeholders. So if we catch the message from the declaration properly for each other, you can spread out to your society. So I'm not targeting to the outside of the some person who working in outside of this stakeholder gathering. First, my priority is targeting to ourselves. Ourselves mean that the whole bunch of the various stakeholders related to the Tokyo Bay restoration. Not only for the Tokyo Bay, but for the blue carbon, blue carbon restoration and eelgrass restoration. では、林先生お願いします。前に。
Professor Hayashi. Thank you very much. And one of the vision should be the recommendation or proposal to stakeholders. So I think you should add some kind of recommendation to stakeholder, or it could be stakeholders or maybe government administration. Well, maybe stakeholders are better. A proposal or recommendation to stakeholders. That is, well, it doesn't necessarily mean we have some perfect or complete recommendation, but I think this is related to what Amy said. Thank you very much. どうぞ。
前にマイクをお願いします。
Thank you. I like that you have the we need to take an action now at the end. I think we need to also state that up front. The time to act is now because of the global environmental crisis. We have to emphasize the fierce urgency of now. And I also think that it would be nice to put in something about the co-production with stakeholders and the role of our role as facilitators, as scientists, to connect the rights holders and duty bearers. I also want to put a little plug in for working internationally, transnationally, that we have the opportunity to learn from one another. And the whole Coast Guard project that brought us here today is part of that exchange that we can learn from one another. So I want to make sure we don't lose sight of the fact that, yes, we had a great time here talking about Tokyo Bay and other Japanese systems, but it was great that we could do that in the context of the international activities.
Thank you. Stakeholder と共に
So along with stakeholders to create something and also to have international collaboration, I think that is what you are saying should be emphasized. And taking action now, not just to be mentioned at the end, but also in the beginning. Thank you.
Later on, we can see in English. 他今共有していただけるように。
Is there anything that you would like to share now?
If not, this is not. Amy, you.
Alignment with
Sure.
UN SDGs, UNFCCC, Paris Agreement, just so we have those linked to the international, that it's a shared problem. Thank you. And I have more, but we can do this through, will it be transparent, Dr. Kita? Yeah, okay, thank you.
We have a transparent in the second row of. I see. Process of that. Sure.
So the alignment with international targets, and you mentioned them. I'm sorry. Well, I think we can include that in the considerations and also for process, that there should be transparency in the process. And I think we can add that among our considerations. Thank you very much. Anything else? I'm sorry that we are behind time. So with this draft, this is just the framework. The organizing committee will make further study, and then we will again send you the declaration. And if you can give your frank views after receiving the declaration, and then with regards to the final determination, if you could agree, then you can write down your name. And this is the same as the Amamo Summit in Fukuoka, that yes, I agree to this declaration. That is going to be collected, and Ogami-san has developed that method. And so we would like to do the same method in this workshop too. Thank you very much for your cooperation. So with that, I would like to deem this to be the summary. And as I said before, this is the end of the morning session, and it is the end of the open session. And finally, representing the organizing committee, I'd like to say a few words. The participants and people who are here on the floor in person, and people who are listening to us and participating online, thank you for your contribution. Now, many things are ongoing, and you have prepared, and you're doing the work, and you have prepared the materials. 3 simultaneous translators, Sakai Shigematsu, thank you for your good work behind the scenes. Because of you, we were able to have a successful international workshop, thanks to you. Please extend a big applause to express our appreciation. And also the transmission service is done by Coordinator and Suzuki-san and staff people. Thank you for your behind-the-scenes efforts. And we are now successfully concluding this workshop. And without charging you any fees, we are able to do this because of the supporting companies and organizations. Thank you for your contributions. Once again, I would like to take this occasion to express our thankfulness. Please continue to support us with these endeavors. Thank you. I think this is still broadcast outside, I hope. And then, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the second International Eelgrass and Blue Carbon Workshop. The morning session is over by now. Thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this completes the AMAMO Online Transmission 2023. Thank you for the participants online.